Most people think that the war against AIDS is over, that we won it several years ago, and now it has faded from public consciousness. But the reality is that we may lose the war, and we may lose it very badly. My goal with this film is to confront people with that reality, while there is still time to do what we need to do to win the war. A few years ago, the Lancet Medical Journal published a study about the future of the AIDS epidemic. The study had both good news and bad news. The good news is that we have medical solutions, and if we can get those medical solutions to everybody who needs them, we can end the AIDS epidemic by the year 2030. But the bad news is, if we keep going at the pace we're going, HIV will come roaring back in the 2020s. But I'm afraid the bad news could be even worse. The political dynamics have changed a lot since the study came out. Now we don't just have to worry about what happens if we keep the pace the same. We have to worry about what happens if the global response is cut back. The future potential of the AIDS epidemic looks a lot worse. The rate of new infections skyrockets off the charts. Tens of millions of people will die. Looking at charts like this, I wondered what it would be like to be in the future, looking back at a missed opportunity. What would it be like to be on the red line, knowing that we could have been on the blue line? What would it be like to witness a human catastrophe, knowing that we could have prevented it, but it failed? That's where the idea for this film came from. It's set in the year 2030 at an AIDS conference in Durban, South Africa. There's a panel of current-day experts speaking from a future perspective. They look back on the 50-year history of the epidemic and describe the key things that went wrong. In 2030, the AIDS epidemic is worse than it ever was. The panel is the intellectual heart of the film. The emotional heart are the stories of ordinary people whose lives have been tragically affected by the collapse of the global response. People like the son of a Zambian minister who died when the supply of ARVs ran out. People like a gay man from Indiana whose husband couldn't afford medical insurance. People like a woman from Johannesburg whose daughter hooked up with a sugar daddy for financial security and then was abandoned when she became HIV positive. They have all come to Durban to confront the panelists and ask a simple question: why? Of course, the panelists have no good answers. The best they can do is think back on what they wish they had done, what the world could have done differently to avoid the catastrophe. After the panel, there is a candlelight memorial service at Emmanuel Cathedral, remembering the tens of millions of people who have needlessly died. The film will be released on World AIDS Day, December 1st, 2017, with a call to action. It is not yet too late. We can still win the war against AIDS if we do what our panelists from the tragic future wish we had done.